Hi, welcome to Daddy Kerb's Farm Channel. In a previous video, I showed you the front lawn that was converted into a beautiful food growing space in a suburban neighborhood. Todd and Candes have more than just a front yard. They have a backyard that is like a whole new world. Follow me through this gate and you'll get to experience what a backyard could look like. Hey guys, Todd, Candes, thank you for letting me come into your backyard.
Welcome.
Now, I don't want to get started too fast because just stepping back here makes you feel like you want to relax. So I'm going to take a seat and we can start talking about some of the things that you have going on back here. Todd and Candes, you guys have been here for 15 plus years. What did this space look like when you first moved in?
It was a whole bunch of grass. The trees weren't as big as they were, and you could actually grow grass, but it was a blank slate, really.
So it's just a typical suburban backyard,
Yeah.
a grass lawn.
Yep.
And over time, you guys have turned it into this really gorgeous space. Of course, the trees have matured beautifully. The canopy here is just gorgeous. The trails and the garden spaces that you've put in. You have a lot of things in a lot of nooks and crannies here that look like recycled materials. How do you guys get that?
Curbside, I have I never pass a pile of what looks like treasure to me without stopping. So I pick up a lot of things from trash piles, try and claim as many things as possible to reuse.
You guys have done a really nice job using reclaimed and repurposed materials to build this space. We're going to take a walk and look at some of the projects that you've done. I, in particular, like your garden and compost, your rabbit space, and the dry stack brick oven. So let's go ahead and take a walk, see what it all looks like.
Great.
This backyard space is gorgeous. Beyond this fence are a few spaces that you don't even know are there. So we're gonna go through here and meet Todd and Candes as they're chilling out in the garden space. It's like stepping into a different world back here. Just that one little fence and the tree cover and all of the plantings that's going on back here just makes this space feel really relaxing and inviting. Todd and Candes, can you tell a little bit about this space as it developed over the years?
Sure. Our fence line used to end to your left there, where it kind of juts out here, but we back up to a creek, runoff drainage creek, and by code we can go out up to half of the creek. And so we decided to go out about 10 more feet to make our yard a little bit bigger, or our garden back here a little bit bigger. Eventually we will go back behind the shop to do the same. But it's just a space that, like I mentioned before, it was all grass when we got here, and with the tree cover, the grass was really hard to maintain, to keep alive. And so as that started to go away, we started to think, well, what can we do to make the space, more enjoyable, livable, where we could come out and enjoy it. And we've decided to just start putting gardens in over the years.
Now I know that you have a compost space. It's not easy to see. I just happen to know, because you already showed me, that it's behind me here. So let's go see what kind of compost operation you have going on there. I was surprised initially by how much volume you can actually manage just behind this fence. As we're going into the compost area, I just want to point out this space. These are old window weights and wine bottles that have been pounded into the ground to make that creative border. Just another indication that you can use things that are typically thrown out as garbage to make something very fun and creative and beautiful. Now just inside here, in this corner of the property, where Todd and Candes are waiting for me, is this space that is used for the leaf mulch, the rabbit manure, and all kinds of other things that they like to compost, using a lot of recycled materials. And look at the volume. This is more compost than you guys could really ever use. And this is a lot, but good for you for creating it. So tell us about this space and how this corner came about and the materials that you're using here for your compost.
Well, we used to come to the corner of the yard and stand on this bench and throw our scraps over. And then if we wanted it, we'd have to go out through another gate and come all the way around, and this was open, and then we just load up. It was only recently that we've decided to make our path a little straighter.
Yeah, and so this was a part, when we originally blew the fence out, you know, another 10 feet, we could, the utilities have to have access to this pole here, and so we left this area. But there's, you know, when we started composting here, we thought it's a perfect, you know, spot. It's big. It, you know, allows us to have a lot of compost, and like Candace said, we just put the gate in to make access easier. But yeah, it's a great space. It's
out of the way.
Yeah, out of the way.
Yeah, it keeps it out of view.
Yeah.
And out in the open still, because compost that's all closed up can get smelly or attract critters, but this is still pretty open. And worst case scenario, if the utility trucks come through, they can just take this fence down if they have to get to this pole.
Yep.
So it's not that big a loss. What types of things do you compost?
Well, a lot of leaves.
Yes.
The red oaks. We're knee deep in red oak leaves every fall, and so we do a lot of those. We try and shred them up before we put them in here, but a lot of that goes in here. Anything green,
Garden scraps.
Yeah, garden scraps, and then also, you know, coffee grounds. You know, all of our coffee goes in here, and then any, you know, non-animal based food products go in, and then the rabbit waste as well.
Nice. Now I can't help it when I see a compost pile, I want to put my hands in it. So I'm gonna dig in here, and let's see. Oh, this is already beautiful. Look how rich that is. You can see it breaking down. That was a twig or a stick, and it's broken down to just mush. That is really, really beautiful material that you guys get to add to your flowers and your vegetable plot. Now I've already pointed out that the pathways are lined with these wine bottles and old window weights, and that is beautiful. Things like this that are just kind of in the corners and along the fence line, this for most people is pretty obvious, is the tank to an old toilet. And it just looks really cute sitting there, and it was a nice way to utilize something that would have ended up in the trash. Over my left shoulder here is one of their resource areas. It's where they collect some of the materials that they use to build the projects in their yard. Even the structure of, you can see back there where all that wood is stored, that was thrown out, that was on the curb. Occasionally people will put bulk materials out on the curb and the city will come pick them up, and those who dare to collect it can bring it home and make things out of it. That was a really nice way to use resources to store resources. Now as I stand up here, you can see they built this massive tree house. You can look through the tree here. Everything on that tree house is reclaimed lumber. That entire structure for the kids was made using lumber that was tossed out by someone else. This is exciting back here. A lot of you will be very interested to know that you can grow your own meat or your pets or whatever you choose to use rabbits for in a suburban backyard. This nice little shady corner has been creatively designed to hold 2 large cages. Todd, tell us about your rabbits.
Well, these are Californians, traditionally a meat rabbit, and these are our 2 does, and this is our buck, and we have not begun to breed yet, but eventually there'll be another cage down below here. But this is our first go at rabbits. They've produced a lot of useful garden waste for the garden.
Oh yeah.
But we, again, you know, trying to use recycle, we just built little brackets here underneath that attach to the side of the shed with poles across, and then set our cages up on top of that. And then just hung a little roof because they need to be out of the rain. But they seem to do well back here. It's the shadiest spot in our yard that still has ventilation.
Oh, it's very breezy. You can feel the breeze coming through here. The rabbits, even though we're in Texas and it's very hot because of these large trees and the position in the property, they get a nice cross breeze and lots of shade.
Yeah, they seem to do well, and they use this marble to help keep cool as well. They lay on top of it, and it's really helpful to keep them cool when it gets hot outside.
Nice. So even if you never did anything else with the rabbits, what they produce and drop on the ground has been extremely beneficial for your vegetable garden up front.
Yep, very beneficial, and they produce a lot of it.
A lot.
Yeah, and it's a type of waste that you don't have to, although we put it in the compost pile, you don't have to compost it. You can put it directly onto beds, because it's I believe it's considered a cold waste product.
Your backyard is beautiful, but one of the centerpieces, one of the anchors of the property, if you will, is this cute little shed. Can you give me a little bit of history about how this came about, how it was decorated, and the purpose of this shed?
Sure. It was really birthed by out in my father-in-law's pasture. He had a pile of this lumber laying out there, and that it's built from. He didn't want it anymore, and it was just laying out there rotting, and so he gave it to us, and we wanted to build a shed. So we needed a shed. We have a small garage. We've never been able to park in the garage for my collecting is because the reason for that, but we needed a place to store a lot of our garden things. Candace also wanted a place to come out and spend some time alone, writing and things like that, so we built a shed. Unfortunately, the first 5 years of having the shed, it was all storage, but eventually we turned it into, at least half of it, into what its original intention was, which is a place for Candace to come out, kind of get away from the kids and me, and spend some alone time and place of her own. So. Well,
it looks like a great place to sit down. I'll tell you, if I had a space like this, I might actually produce some articles for my blog. Hopefully Candace starts a blog. We're trying to talk her into that, because she has a lot of projects. They both have a lot of projects, and it's just a lot of fun talking to them about all of the things that they do. And this little space right here would be a great place to let those creative juices just kind of run free and get that stuff on paper. Another interesting feature in your backyard is your brick oven. I know that in the past, you and I, just as friends, have sat around talking about different projects, and I think brick ovens was one of those things. And while we were dreaming about it, while I was dreaming about it, you were actually at home building one. Tell me about this project here.
Well, I've always wanted a brick oven, and most of them are very expensive and permanent. So knowing that I don't always stick with things for a long time, I'll kind of get a wild hair, and then for a while. Candace recommended that if I could do something that's maybe not permanent, she'd be more supportive of this. So that's kind of where we went with this. I looked on YouTube. It's
a great resource.
It's a great resource, yes. And there was somebody who built a temporary brick oven just out of bricks they found, and it worked. And so I kind of took that, made some design changes, and found some. This is old brick, old Chicago brick, and I bought these pavers here and put it on some cementatious board, built a frame for it. It really takes only about 30 minutes to build something like this, and it heats up to 800 degrees to bake pizzas, and it makes some fantastic pizzas.
Nice. So the concept of this oven is that you build your fire in here, and it gets these bricks nice and hot, and then you scoot the fire to the back.
You got it.
And you have a chimney on the front that brings the heat from the back of the oven across and then channels up.
Yep.
So this hot brick surface cooks your pizzas or breads, while the heat from the back of the oven comes up and out the chimney.
You got it. Yep. Once you push the fire back, if you're baking pizzas, for example, I like to have the fire come up and over the pizza, and it'll bake a pizza in about 90 seconds.
90 seconds.
Yeah.
Wow. How long does it take to heat this up to be ready to bake?
Well, that is the downside of something like this. Since this is a dry stack oven, there's no insulation. It is not the most fuel efficient, so it does take a lot of wood. But for somebody like me who doesn't use it on a really regular basis, there are better methods and more fuel efficient ways to do it, but this really works for me. It takes about 2.5 hours to heat up, to fully heat the oven up, If you do it right, you know, you can do it with not a ton of fuel. But once it heats up, you know, we bake 20, 25 pizzas at a time when we do it. And
So you just take advantage of it's hot.
you got it.
Start cooking.
Yep. And then once we're done baking pizza, we've baked loaves of bread in there as well, and it's come out just fine.
Nice. And now that you have a little experience with a brick oven, even with this temporary, somewhat inefficient design, if you chose to make a permanent one, with the experience you've gathered from this design, you could make a better, more permanent one if you chose.
Absolutely.
That's the advantage of the experimentation and the journey, the process of doing these projects, instead of doing all sorts of academic research and deciding that you're going to make something permanent. It's doing things slower and taking steps to maybe make some temporary. I'm only saying this because this is how I think. You make something, you use it, you experiment, and you learn something, and then you can make the next one better. I think what you've done here is a beautiful example of that process, and functional.
Yeah, I've rebuilt this probably 4 times to make minor changes. At first, I didn't have a chimney, and I just found a lot better results after experimenting and putting an actual chimney in it, because it draws that heat
Right,
over,
exactly.
over the pizzas.
If you like this type of video where I go onto other people's property and experience the different gardens and farms, give me a thumbs up and a comment below, and we'll see what we can do. Todd, Candes, thank you so much. Thank you again. I'll talk to you soon.
You can come out now.
Really gets to spend quiet time.